Advocates decry delays in release of migrant kids. Miami immigrant advocates say the U.S. government is allowing migrant children at a Florida facility to languish in prison. A court filing Friday revealed conditions inside the Homestead, Florida, facility that has become the nation's biggest location for detaining immigrant children. Decades-old, the children detained at the facility said they longed to be released to their parents and other relatives in the United States and were allowed limited phone calls to loved ones. Some were also at. Dozens of volunteer lawyers, interpreters, and other legal workers interviewed more than 70 child migrants at Homestead during several visits over the past year. The U.S. Department, a Honduran boy described arriving with an aunt at the Mexico border in December. She was deported already. The children's allegations come as officials struggle to accommodate increasing numbers of minors illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The Homestead facility. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services did not respond to requests for comment. The private contract. Many of the children are fleeing gang and domestic violence and will end up seeking asylum. Most are sent to live. The court filing included testimonials from more than a dozen children who had been separated from parents last year before the Trump administration ended a policy that led to more than 2,700 children being taken from families. Others, the Trump administration has long complained about the 1997 settlement, which generally means the government should release children in about 20 days. The names of the children were redacted, but they testified being there for weeks, or months, without knowing when they would be released. A girl told a slideshow by Photo Services. A 14-year-old boy from Honduras said he had problems video conferencing with the social worker handling his reunification on 2 separate occasions, as the company began hiring clinicians and case managers to work long distance. Sometimes. A Guatemalan girl said she didn't speak any Spanish, only her native Maya language of Quechua, when she arrived, and she had troubles understanding her social worker. In the same filings, a federal field specialist for the U.S. government's Office of Refugee Resettlement said the goal is safe. In several occasions, children were flown from Florida to Texas locations promising they would be reunited with a parent, only to be flown back and booked again into the facility. A Guatemalan child expressed willingness to leave the U.S. voluntarily only to be told that a legal department would need to get involved. A Salvadoran boy who said he left his country in January fleeing violence said children at the facility can't touch anyone or fight or they could get a report that will delay their case. He told lawyers, Taxon reported from Santa Ana, California.
Raindrop, truck top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.